All right, guys, welcome to a Wednesday live stream. I want to try to start doing live streams a little bit more often. I mean, we do the podcast on a weekly basis, but I kind of figured, maybe we could start trying to incorporate more community discussion type live streams. I really enjoy doing these types of live streams, and I know that a lot of you enjoyed as well. So thanks for being here. I'm going to just wait a couple of minutes and just kind of talk about, I guess, what the stream is going to be about and why I wanted to do it, because I want some more people to file in. And I'm hoping that people will watch this stream once it's done as well. I'm hoping that this stream can kind of have some legs on it. I'm hoping that, because I feel like it's crazy to think that the PS5 is about to be, one already. Like, it's been 1 year. Time absolutely flies. And I'm hoping to do a proper PS5 review video. I just was trying to think, like, how do I want to do this? I don't want everything to be overly redundant. Last Wednesday, we did a kind of evaluation of what the Xbox Series X and the PS5, the first year of these consoles being out. Sir Speaks a Lot, you're saying, nah, homeboy, there can only be one person that comments, and that's going to be me. Don't bother running. I'll come to you guys. All right, so Sir Speaks a Lot, nuking the chat. No worries. Anybody who's here right now, I'm assuming you know what this is. Sir Speaks a Lot. Going forward, we're going to have to do a 5-second nuke. Okay, 5 seconds. It's been well over 5 seconds, so it has to end now. But going forward, when you nuke the chat, because I know that you just can't help yourself, 5 seconds will do. I think 5 seconds is good. You can do a lot of damage in 5 seconds. I truly always feel sorry for anybody, though, who maybe is like, oh, I'll tune into an MBG live stream for the first time ever, and they look at the chat and they're like, what is going on here? But I guess that's the point, right? But yeah, so for those of you who are here right now, again, thank you. Do me a favor, please hit the like button to help this stream out. It'll make it so that, it'll pop up on more people's home pages once the stream's done, so we can get more people to check it out. But PlayStation 5 is about to be one. It's been 1 year already, and as I said, last week we talked about an evaluation. To kind of sum that live stream up, we kind of came to the conclusion, or at least I did, that I think in general, the PlayStation 5 had a much better year than the Xbox Series X. I think that Sony just had a lot more things in place and ready to go to ensure that the PS5's first year was not going to be weak. However, I do think that things are turning around for Xbox a little bit, as we see. And so, as you can see on the screen here, I put out a poll last week, and I wanted to be sure to put it out last week, knowing that I was not going to be doing this stream until sometime this week, or the week where the PS5 hits its 1 year anniversary, because I wanted to give it some time. The poll was, how would you rate your first year with the PS5? And I put 1 out of 5 rankings here. I really wanted to put the option here for people to vote for I still don't have a PS5, because that's a very, very common thing still. It's more common for somebody to not have a PS5 than to actually have a PS5. So I felt bad that I wasn't able to include that here. But unfortunately, YouTube's poll system only allows for 5 total options. And so the options that I chose are 1 out of 5, terrible, should have stuck with the PS4. Then there is rating it 2 out of 5, not very good, well below my expectations. Then we have 3 out of 5, it's been okay, was expecting a bit more. We have 4 out of 5, it's been very good, not perfect, but still very good. And then we have 5 out of 5, that being perfect everything I imagined it would be. Now, I was interested to see what these results would end up looking like, knowing that we are a PlayStation-focused channel, knowing that I would assume most people subscribe to this channel are PlayStation fans to some extent, but at the very least, knowing for sure that a chunk of my subscriber base, a chunk of my audience does have a PlayStation 5 and that they would be able to vote on this. Now, there's no way to know how many people voted on this poll who don't actually have PS5s. There's no doubt that a certain percentage of the total amount of votes here are from people who don't actually have PS5s. And I would have to imagine that if that's the case, they either lie in the 5 out of 5, perfect, everything I imagined it would be, or the 1 out of 5, terrible, should have stuck with the PS4. But there's no way to know for sure. Sir Speaks a Lot again, you're saying, have you gotten the beta code for Elden Ring MBG? I did, and I'm hoping to invade you to prevent you from becoming a god. So believe it or not, I completely forgot to sign up for that. So there's no way for me to get a code to play Elden Ring. I know people are now selling them for hundreds of dollars on eBay, which I'm not going to buy. At this point, I've just determined that Elden Ring is absolutely a game I want to play, and I'm excited for it. And I'm at that point where I don't really need to see anything more. I don't need to be sold on it. I don't want to play it early just to have it taken away. I'm ready to play the game when it drops. But I noticed that impressions of the game of Elden Ring actually dropped today, so I'm going to have to look into them. I'm hearing some very good things so far. But congratulations to anybody who did get their Elden Ring code. Some people are feeling very upset because I think some people were under the impression that if you signed up, you were guaranteed to get chosen and to be able to play. Didn't work that way. It wasn't guaranteed. Only some people were given the code. Others were not. Others were actually rejected. I think they sent out emails saying you didn't get a code. So that's a shame. But that's the way it goes, right? But so PS5 has been out for 1 year now, and I'm looking at the poll results here. There were a total of 16,000 votes. Now, I have to be honest with you, I was really hoping that we could get more votes than that. But 16,000 is still a lot of votes. I'm glad that we were able to get over 10,000. Definitely glad we were able to get over 15,000. And 16,000 in the grand scheme of things is a very small percentage. It's a very small pool, but still, I found the results interesting. So if you look here, only 3% of people, to me, this was, I think, the most interesting takeaway from this, is only 3% of the total 16,000 gave it a 1 out of 5. And you know that at least a small portion, maybe a large portion, but some portion of that 3% are people who are trying to troll or who don't own the console. You already know that. So as far as I'm concerned, that 3%, I'm kind of impressed. And even right above that, looking at a 2 out of 5, not very good, well below my expectations. I do believe that at least a portion of those votes are people who actually have PS5s and are sincerely just not feeling very good about it. I think that does happen, but I was surprised to see that for both of those, 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5, only a total of 6%. 6% out of 100%. That's really good. I was expecting at least the 2 out of 5, at least the 2 out of 5 rating to be a little bit higher than 3%. So that's good though, because that tells you that people are enjoying the PS5. At the bare minimum, most people are giving it a 3 out of 5, right? I would like to see what a poll like this would look like from a much different group of individuals, like people who maybe are more casual. Because I feel like a lot of the people on my channel who voted for this, I don't know that we're really casual gamers, but that a lot of casual gamers are still trying to pick up a PS5. I wonder how they would rate it. B Flesher, you're saying, did you see that Game Informer posted a poll about which console had the best year, and PS5 got 30% and Xbox got 50%? Is this just bandwagon or Game Pass? I didn't actually see that poll myself. I did see some people bringing it up. I don't know how many votes it had. I could maybe look it up at some point, but I don't think that's fair, to be honest. And I know that some people are going to think that, well, of course you don't think it's fair. You like the PS5 better than the Xbox Series X. You don't even own an Xbox Series X. And that's true. Both of those statements are true. But when you look back at the 1 year mark, right, the 1 year mark of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, I feel like the reason why that's not fair is simple. It's because one console at launch had a lineup and one did not. I don't say that to try to bring down the Xbox Series X. I just say that as that is objectively something that needs to be taken into account when you evaluate and when you compare the two. But then again, that's just a poll that was conducted on Game Informer. And what I've noticed is that Xbox has effectively turned the narrative around to where people aren't really thinking anymore about the launch lineup of the PS5. And it's understandable why they wouldn't. We're like 1 year removed from that. People are seemingly more forgiving at this point in time, knowing that, hey, these consoles are going to be out for a year. Xbox is delivering some games. Sony is slowing down for the next couple of months in preparation for next year. And so naturally, the narrative is going to change. The narrative is not going to be the same as it was back in December of 2020 and January or February of 2020. And because of that, I feel like you look at those results, it's kind of reflective of that. So I did see that making the rounds. I don't think it means much. I think that if there's anything to be taken away from that Game Informer poll, it's simply that Xbox is in a much better position now than they were previously. And what I mean to say is I feel like a lot of people who were voting on that poll, not everybody, of course, but at least a good chunk of people, they were probably voting with the mentality of, well, how is Xbox doing right now? How is Xbox looking right now? I don't think they were actually thinking about the last 12 months when they clicked Xbox. That's just my opinion. I'm sure there are some people who genuinely think that Xbox had a better year than PlayStation did when it comes to these new consoles. And I think that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. We also have a new member, Ryan Butcher. Thank you so much, buddy, for becoming a channel member. You are a member of the Play Has No Limits tier, so really appreciate that, dude. Welcome aboard. This is a good opportunity for me to shout out all of my members. Anybody who is a member, I have to sincerely thank you for continuing to support me here, because at this point, anybody who is a channel member is doing so simply just to support me and the content that I produce here. So thank you so much for that, man. Really appreciate it. We also have Zay Very Rare. You're saying, what's up, MBG? I hope you're having a great day. Just wanted to say that your streams come in clutch when I can't catch them live. You said my name right. Okay, I'm glad to hear that, man, because I feel like I remember you telling me before that I wasn't saying your name correctly. So now I'm all self-conscious every time I see it. So glad to hear that. But I'm glad you enjoy the live streams, man. And I'm glad that people actually come to watch the streams after the fact, once they're not live anymore. I like to think that a lot of people probably listen to it in the background while they're doing stuff. And so that's always a really cool thing. But yeah, at a time like this, it's going to be impossible not to make comparisons between the first year of the PS5 and the first year of the Xbox Series X. And I alluded to this, or I mentioned this on my last stream, where it's just so interesting to see how things have flipped around, where at the launch of the PS5, Sony was coming out so strong, stronger than I think they ever have for a launch lineup. And they continued going strong into 2021 with Returnal, Ratchet and Clank, Deathloop, and Kena, Bridge of Spirits, got to say it right. And now things have come to, I don't want to say a complete dead stop, but the reality is Sony is seemingly taking a break from game releases between now and I guess if you count God of War hitting PC in January, you could count that as a release, but I don't really count that. The same way I don't count Ghost of Tsushima and Death Stranding as new releases because they're games that have already been released. I'm not going to count God of War PC. So pretty much until February, Sony has, pumped the brakes when it comes to game releases. And that's during a time where their competition is doing the opposite. They're accelerating. So it's kind of a, like I said, it's like a pendulum swinging back and forth here. But just focusing on the PS5. So we look at the 2 out of 5, we look at the 1 out of 5, and that accounts for a total of 6% of the pie here, which is a very small number. And so we move on to 3 out of 5. 18% of the 16,000 votes said it's been okay, was expecting a bit more. And so I'm hoping that when we do dive into the comments of this community poll, there are some people who maybe are making it known what they were expecting, what exactly they were expecting. And then the majority, the overwhelming majority of the vote here is giving the PS4, not the PS4, the PS5, a 4 out of 5, saying it's been very good. It hasn't been perfect, but it's still been very good. And, I think that it makes sense that most people would choose 4 out of 5. But again, I'm hoping that when we dive into the comments, we'll see people explaining why exactly they gave it a 4 out of 5. I haven't read any of these comments yet, so it'll be the first time I'm reading them as well. And then 21%, which is a pretty good chunk of people, are giving it a 5 out of 5, saying that the PS5 is perfect to them. It's literally everything they imagined it would be. So pretty solid number, It's interesting to me that 21%, you look at 5 out of 5, 21%. You look at 1 out of 5, 3%. I mean, big difference there, right? Big difference there. So, all right. I'm going to scroll down here. I got to make sure you guys can actually see it, though. And I put this here. I said I would have included the still don't have a PS5 option, but there are only 5 options to choose from. So I'll leave a comment, or I left this comment hoping that people would like it as a way to signify that that's what their vote is, pretty much, that they still can't buy a PS5. They want to, but they still can't, which is crazy. I feel like when we went into this new generation, we knew that scarcity at first was going to be an issue. There was no doubt about that. We all were prepared. But if you had told me last year that, hey man, when you approach the 1-year marker of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X being out, these consoles are still going to be really, really difficult to get, like really difficult, I probably wouldn't have believed you. I would have said, no, there's no way. But that's where we are. So we have to wonder how much that's going to linger into 2022. Space Deer saying, yeah, because they knew they didn't have the volume to compete. They did a really good first impression, but facing Christmas now, Xbox has all the attention. Well, I see where you're coming from, Space D, but I don't know that that's 100% correct. I don't think that Sony believed they didn't have the volume. Maybe this is being glass half full, but I really do think that at some point Sony became aware that, okay, our biggest problem is not going to be delivering games and making sure we have games to release. I think at some point Sony realized that that's not the issue here. The issue is we're not going to be able to produce enough consoles. Now, this is an issue that Xbox faces as well, but there's a big difference between Xbox and Sony in that Sony very much is still in the traditional mindset, mostly where they do want to use and leverage their exclusive games to sell their hardware. And by that, I'm not talking about the PS4. Sony doesn't want people to look at Horizon Forbidden West, and especially a game like God of War Ragnarok, and think to themselves, hey, I'm going to go buy a PS4 now. I mean, so I think Sony would be like, okay, that's good. Like, we still want to sell PS4s, but in general, Sony is, we really want you to buy a PS5. Like, that's really where they want to funnel people, but it's congested and it's jammed up right now because of, the chip shortage and how Sony is still navigating this just like Microsoft, but Microsoft doesn't really have that problem, and Microsoft alleviated that problem before it was even a problem by saying, hey, we want to put our games pretty much everywhere we're able to, on the cloud, on Game Pass, on PC. And so it's just not really a problem for Microsoft. And the reason why I'm saying that, Space D, is because I think that Sony kind of wants to pump the brakes a little bit, right? I mean, I know that Horizon Forbidden West is launching on PS4 as well, and so is God of War. But as I said, I think Sony wants those games to move PS5 units. They don't want people to be buying those games on PS4. They would much rather people go into a store or go on Amazon or go anywhere and check out Horizon Forbidden West PS5 version with a PS5, God of War Ragnarok PS5 version with a PS5. Microsoft just doesn't care about that. Microsoft, there is no, specific Series X version. It's just, here's Forza Horizon 5, and buy it wherever you want, play it wherever you want. And I feel like it's just really fascinating to think that Sony now has to navigate something that I don't think they were anticipating. I think Sony's big concern was, we need to make sure we have a good impression. We need to make sure we have enough content to flow, to move units efficiently and effectively. But I don't think anybody really sat back and thought, but what if you don't have enough units to move? You know what I mean? The concern was, how do we move these units? Not, will we have enough units? And I feel like everything that happened in the past year and a half immediately changed the mindset from, will we have enough games, to, do we have enough units to sell? So that's just my speculation on it, but I do understand where you're coming from, Space D. Okay, so I see somebody in the chat asking if I talked about the Game Informer poll. I talked about it briefly. Maybe as we go further into the stream, I can look up that poll, and because I don't have it in front of me and I didn't actually see it yet, but we can maybe look at that. All right, so let's see here. I'm gonna check some of the replies that people left to my comment. Let's see what they're saying. Okay, so we have Jamaican Trophy Hunter saying, still don't have a PS5. We have Tech for All saying, it's missing a lot of features, but it's an outstanding console. I just want Sony to handle backwards compatibility like Xbox does and implement FPS boost. It sucks that developers have to put out a patch in order to take advantage of the PS5's horsepower. So yeah, I think that's something that we can definitely acknowledge. One thing that I think was made clear with the first year of the PS5 being out is that Sony, at least for the first year, doesn't have any intention of following the steps that Microsoft laid out when it comes to having things like FPS boost, and at least not to the same extent. Sony has provided multiple patches for their games, but I think truthfully, Sony has made some pretty big strides of improvement when it comes to backwards compatibility compared to what it used to be. I think people forget a little bit how it went down with the PS4, how Sony pretty much was just yeah, we're not doing backwards compatibility. And this is where competition truly does reveal its importance, because I have no doubt in my mind that if Microsoft didn't pursue backwards compatibility the way they did starting in 2015 and really continue that in a big way with the next gen consoles, I think backwards compatibility would have been a lot less important to Sony. That's not to say that I think they wouldn't have had PS4 backwards compatibility with the PS5. They absolutely would have, but I just don't know in general how much of a priority that would have been. If they ran into any roadblocks, I feel like they maybe would have been like, oh, well, let's just not worry about it. Whereas I feel like now it's not like that. If Sony runs into any significant roadblocks regarding backwards compatibility, they're absolutely going to say, we have to figure this out, at least with PS4 titles, right? Even that very small list of games, if you guys remember, there was 8 or 10 games or something like that nobody really ever heard of games that were not part of the backwards compatibility program for PS5. Most of those games, I think, even those games got patched by like the developers. And I know it's like, well, the devs shouldn't have had to patch it, but the point is the work was done, right? Like it's not really a problem. But I think that's fair. I think that's fair to want Sony to do something like FPS boost and just kind of put a bigger emphasis on it. I think what PlayStation fans really want, at least a section of PlayStation fans, is they really want Sony to do something of significance with PS3, PS2, and PS1 games. I really think that's what a lot of core PlayStation fans want, understandably so. Space D, you're saying, well, after Halo, every other big AAA is going to be next-gen only, contrary to PlayStation. That doesn't back up that theory. Yeah, I mean, again, I do understand where you're coming from, Space D. I do find it very fascinating how the script, as I said, has been completely flipped. I remember how I was very much cheering on Sony, like next gen only. Sony's going all in with next gen exclusives, and I was kind of, I was being very negative towards Xbox because I'm like, hey man, Xbox, I think they're making a big mistake doing cross gen, and then it all flipped around where actually, Microsoft's solution to cross gen is they're not really going to do it in 2022 and beyond. Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to allow people on their Xbox Ones to play next-gen only games through the cloud. And I'm like, you know what? I got to hand it to Microsoft. That was a genius solution. That was a genius solution that I didn't anticipate. Now, Sony's not doing that. Sony's solution is, well, these games started development on PS4. We're going to release them on PS4. And they even went as far to reverse their decision with a game like GT7, where they said this is going to be a PS5 only game. Now it's going to be PS4. It was in their marketing. PlayStation 5 console exclusive, or not console exclusive, just PlayStation 5 exclusive. They had the reverse. I think everybody at this point, including myself, we understand why that's happening, but there's no doubt that the script has been flipped. No doubt about that. Devin, you're saying, question MBG, do you think GT7 has competition against Forza Horizon 5? I know they're two completely different games, but they're both in the same genre. That's a good question, Devin. I do think that inherently there's going to be comparisons because, like you said, they're in the same genre. They're two racing games. But I feel like the only time that conversation is worth having or even engaging in is when people accept and understand that there is nuance. There's nuance to it. GT7 is not the same type of game as Forza Horizon 5. Forza Horizon 5 is not the same type of racing game that GT7 is. And so I feel like if you're going to make comparisons and you're going to stack the two up against each other, it's just like any other comparison. You have to acknowledge that there are some inherent differences that you have to take into account, that there will be specific reasons why one game is doing this and why one game is doing that, because they're both trying to achieve two different things. As long as you can have the conversation with that in mind, then I think you can make decent progress and it can be an interesting conversation. But to me, the conversation more often than not doesn't take into account those type of nuances. You know what I mean? It kind of just devolves into a, well, Forza Horizon 5, does this better, or look at the open world and the, you know what I mean? And it's just like, well, that's what makes it better. It's like, well, that's a perfectly fine opinion, but where does that fit in the comparison? You know what I mean? It's like trying to compare an open world game to a linear game. It's like, how do you even begin to do that in a way in which one comes out on top of the other? I feel like that's an extremely difficult, maybe even pointless thing to attempt to do. So that's kind of how I see it. But like you said, there will be comparisons that are made because they're racing games. And I feel like for me, the best way I can kind of lay it out is if you're somebody who likes a more casual racing experience, something that's much more arcadey, something that looks really good as well. And it's just kind of about the fun factor, not the seriousness of the racing itself and all the different deep mechanics that can be involved with any type of simulation game. Then I think Forza Horizon 5 is the game for you. To whereas if you really want that more serious, fine-tuned experience where it's definitely something you have to get into and you have to dig in to really, I think, get the full breadth of everything that's on offer, and you want that more catered experience, then I think you definitely want to go for GT7. I think a much better comparison is GT7 compared to whatever the next Forza Motorsport is going to be, because now you're talking about two racing games that are essentially trying to achieve the same or very similar things, and therefore the comparisons make much more sense. So appreciate that, though. Appreciate the super chat, buddy. We also have IONIX. You're saying, why are we talking about Xbox again? Let's talk about PS5. Well, I was just answering a super chat that had mentioned Forza Horizon 5. Jerome Montgomery saying, let's talk about both. Love the competition. Yeah, I mean, it's at this point in time, it's difficult not to acknowledge the noise, I guess, is the best way to put it, the noise that Xbox is making. But it's true. This content is specifically focused on the PS5. But I think in order to properly talk about the first year of the PS5, we do have to acknowledge the competition. But let's see here. What else is being said in my comments? So some other responses. Chaos Bunny says the 60 FPS on God of War and The Last of Us 2 were worth it alone. A lot of people were happy about that, for sure. Okay, we're going to start scrolling down into some of the responses that were given. So we have Benjamin W. He says, I think it's been really good. People need to remember that the first year of a console generation is always a little bit slow. And so that, I think, is a great comment, because that's what I've been thinking about now that we're pretty much done the first year of the PlayStation 5. The thought that occurred to me is I look at how strong the first year of the PS5 was, and I think the first year of the PS5 was very strong. I really do. I think that Sony, as I said, made sure to have a lot in place, not just with their first party games, but with their partners as well, knowing that having second party deals and third party deals to kind of help carry you the first year can work out really well for you and really just create a favorable viewpoint in the eyes of a lot of gamers by doing that, and just make your console that much more appealing. I think Sony really has had a strong year, but the thing that I can't help but think is I look to 2022, and I also think about 2023, the second and third year of the console, and how it is true that traditionally the first year of a console usually is a little bit slower, it's a little bit weaker. We look at 2021 and just the first year of the PS5 since launch as really good, right? It's pretty good. We've been eating pretty good, but something tells me that when we are, having another live stream in November of 2022, or another live stream, thinking way ahead, but in November of 2023, how we're going to look back, we're going to compare the second year of the PS5's lineup to the first year. We're going to compare the third year to the second and first year. And I think that we're going to look back on the first year of the PS5 and be like, wow, it was pretty weak in comparison. And I guess what that really speaks to is just how good the future is looking for the PS5. But I think that that's totally fair. I think that's a very fair and even necessary thing to acknowledge, is that we do need to remember that the first year of a new console launch traditionally, usually, in fact, it seems like every time, it's pretty much going to be weaker than what is to come. That's just the nature of how these things work. Extra, you're saying, do you think the PS5 is still relevant when major PS5 exclusive games come to PC 1 to 2 years after launch? My answer to that is absolutely, I think it will be. Yeah, I think that there's been this, and I've been part of this conversation for sure. I've been part of this line of thinking. There's been this line of thinking that if that were to happen, if like a game like Returnal or future games, not future games, but maybe, at some point like Demon Souls, and maybe even down the line, a game like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, even if it's 2 to 3 years later, there's this line of thinking that, well, it's going to make the PS5 useless. It's going to make it so that it's not relevant anymore. Nobody's going to want to buy a PS5. Nobody should buy a PS5. Now, I feel like there's a big difference between saying nobody's going to want to buy a PS5 versus nobody should buy a PS5. I feel like if you're saying the PS5 is going to become irrelevant if Sony does that, that's an assumption of what may happen. And at this point, I think it's pretty clear that that's not going to happen. The Xbox Series X is selling just fine. It's not selling as well as the PS5, but it's doing just fine, right? I think it's certainly doing much better than the Xbox One. And that's with all of Microsoft's games on PC. The PS5 is still breaking records somehow, even with this supply constraint. It just goes to show how high the demand for the PS5 is and remains. It's breaking records during a time when Sony is like, we may not be putting PS5 games onto PC, but we are putting games onto PC. Sony is making it known, hey, we are embracing PC. We bought a studio whose sole purpose is to port games to PC. So I think that, to answer your question, yes, the PS5 will remain very relevant. And I think any fear that I or anybody else may have had of like, I don't know, man, this could hurt the PS5 and make a console, essentially, our way of enjoying video games, become irrelevant. But what I realize is that that's not going to happen, because the console experience is something that you either like or you don't. You're either attracted to it or you're not. And every person has their own reasons for being attracted to that type of experience. For some people, it's about saving money. For some people, it's about convenience. For some people, it's just they like having the box and they like to set it up in their entertainment center and look at it. They like to just have that. Like they like the experience of that, whatever it may be. They might like the more catered experience where, yes, you have not as many options, but believe it or not, some people like that. I think that's worth acknowledging, is that some people like having less options for the sake of simplicity. And people who do like having options and having as many options as they can will oftentimes look down upon people for some reason who like that. You know what I mean? Which, psychologically speaking, it makes sense. That's the natural, I guess, direction that some people are going to go into. Jerome, you're saying PlayStation 5 became day and date or 1 year. Okay, I think what you're saying is if the PlayStation 5 ended up doing day and date PC releases or PC releases within 1 year of the games coming out, will you be okay with sales being just fine? If I'm reading your question right, absolutely. I'm over the idea of I spent so much time being like, oh no, like what if Sony does this, just to realize that it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't matter. It doesn't take away from my own personal enjoyment. And I feel like the question that people would always ask me, and they would ask a lot of PlayStation fans who say this, or not even just PlayStation fans, but anybody who has ever followed sales of a console, they would ask, why do you care about sales? And I think that's a natural question for any person to ask. Why would you care? If you're not part of that money-making aspect of, if I sell a console, I make money from that, why would you care? And I thought about that for a while, and I realized, I think it just comes simply down to when you see something, it's kind of like, when you follow a sports team, you're not getting really anything from them. Like in terms of you're not making money from that sports team. You don't have anything to gain other than just something, I don't know, that can't really be quantified, right? You just want to see your team win because you like the team. You want to see the team succeed. You want to see them do well. And you may not gain anything financially from that, but it makes you feel better about the team. Like, yeah, they're doing good. I'm proud of it. I feel good about it because I like this thing. And I guess it is like a sense of identity in a way. And I realized that I've been only playing on console, and that's why the PS5 launch was such a big deal to me. And I think that this actually makes sense to talk about here, given the topic today. I've only ever played on a video game console. So the console gaming experience, for as limited as it may be in the eyes of some, has meant a lot to me, and it still does mean a lot to me. And so because of that, when I see a console failing to sell, like if you look at the Wii U, that is an example of a console that, yeah, that's complete failure. Like no one bought that, and it failed, it died, right? And it forced Nintendo to scramble and think of something new, which is good in a way. But when you see something you enjoy, for me, I want to see it do good enough to where it's going to remain relevant so it can get more support. So more games can be ported to it. So more developers will want to make games for this thing that I enjoy playing on. That's what it comes down to, because we have seen the negative ramifications of when a console fails to remain as relevant as it should. Developers do start to kind of, step away a little bit. They feel less incentivized. And we've seen that happen. And worst case scenario, developers just abandon it altogether, which when it comes to PlayStation, that's just never going to happen. I don't think PlayStation's ever going to have like a Wii U situation. In fact, I don't think PlayStation's ever even going to have like an Xbox One situation. I don't think PlayStation's ever even going to have a PS3 situation again. I think PlayStation's going to continue to make consoles no matter what. And I think that unless they really just do something completely out of left field, which is always a possibility, unless they do something crazy, I think that their consoles will always just sell well enough to where developers will want to continue to provide content for it, and they will want to put games onto the PlayStation console and the PlayStation platform because it's just a popular thing to do. It's just a relevant console. The PlayStation brand is relevant. So I know that was a long-winded explanation, but I think it was one worth having. I think that was a conversation worth having because it's not necessarily an attempt to justify anything, any feelings I have, because I don't have to justify anything realistically, and I'm not justifying it. I think that it really just comes down to, look, you want to identify what it is that people care about and why do they care about it. For me personally, that's why. I can only explain how I feel. I can't say anything. I can't speak for anybody else but myself. So hopefully that helps clear it up a little bit. Okay, so let's go back to some of these responses. We read what Benjamin W. had to say, so let's scroll down and read what Mode Phaser has to say. He says, been so blessed with this generation's experience. Wish it was the same for everyone. And so he seems to be saying that, hey, I'm having a great time with the PS5. It's awesome. I just wish that more people who wanted to experience it were also able to. And yeah, I can get behind that for sure. We also have Terry Chimaobi. I don't know. I apologize if I just destroyed your last name, but you're saying it's been great. Still can't believe I got it day one. Just pre-ordered Horizon Forbidden West. Well, Terry seems to be very happy with the PS5. Pre-ordered Horizon Forbidden West, and so, yeah, a lot of enthusiasm. We have Blinks360 saying, loving the PS5. I had been a loyal Xbox player for 18 years and didn't like the direction they are going. So enjoying all the PS4 and PS5 exclusives I've missed out on and enjoying every single one of them. So that's definitely a unique take. Maybe not that unique, but definitely something that some people I think are experiencing this time around with the PS5. I mean, I do wonder how many people were just playing on Xbox last generation, like just the Xbox One, and they really just kind of skipped out on the PS4. And then they decided, this time around, I'm going to go with the PS5. And having that entire back catalog of PS4 exclusives on top of what Sony's bringing out for the PS5 Yeah, I can imagine that makes for a really great experience first time around for sure. We have Igor, I guess Igor B is what I'll call him. He says PS5 delivered super beginning, but it doesn't utilize more than 40% of the full potential, and that's good because the best is yet to come. And so that's fascinating. There are people who I think are very happy with the PS5, but they're also eager to see like how far can the PS5 be taken. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that we can. I know I can't quantify how much of the PS5's full horsepower has been utilized. I can't quantify that. I can only assume. But 40%, I don't know. Guys, in the chat, let me know what percentage of the PS5 do you think has been tapped into at this point? Do you think, I feel like 40% is kind of low. Like, I feel like when I think about a game like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, or even like a game like Demon's Souls with how amazing it looks visually, I feel like it has to be more than 40%, right? I want to say it's probably leaning more towards like 60, maybe 70% on the higher end, but then again, 70% is kind of high. I'd say probably like 50 to 60%. Yeah, I can't put a number on it for sure. It's just a guess. I would love for a developer to answer that question. I would absolutely love for a developer. I mean, I guess the best thing we can go off of is, yeah, Rudy, you're bringing it up. You said that Insomniac went on record, I think during the launch, it was either of Miles Morales or Ratchet and Clank, or maybe both, but they pretty much said that, look, we're currently just scratching the surface. Now, you could take that as they're just exaggerating. They want people to be excited for their future games, but I feel like that's probably true, right? I mean, if you're a developer, when it comes to a console transition, your focus is we got to get the game as good as it can get, as good as it can be. We can't really sit here and focus, knowing we have to ship our game in the next year. We can't really focus on like truly innovating. We just have to focus on getting the game in a playable state and trying to squash as many bugs, So I do believe Insomniac when they say that, and that's why I did say, a lot of people I think have tried to downplay what has been going on with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, but I always said that the fact that Insomniac has been able to the fact that they even attempted to try to do something with the PS5 that potentially couldn't be done on any other console, or unless it's a very, very, very specific, finely tuned PC, which we still don't know if that's the case. I still applaud them for that, because it's like, you would think that their focus is just get the game out, but they're like, let's see what else we can do. So I'm impressed by that. You're saying, MBG, remember the Lumen in the Land of Nanite demo? We have seen nothing yet. I'm pretty sure it's about 50%. Yeah, that's true. I did forget about that. Man, time flies. That's true. We did see that demo with the potential of what could be possible. MBG, there's never been a generation that a console came out and its first year games are Game of the Year contenders. Sony did this for the first time with Returnal and Ratchet and Clank. It's not an easy thing to do. I agree, and I'm definitely going to talk about that. MBG, have you seen YouTube will be removing the public dislike count starting today? What? Is that true? That's very interesting if true. That has some implications if that's true. I don't know if you're just saying this to troll me or not. I could look it up maybe. I don't want to derail this discussion too much, but that's very interesting. Check Twitter. That has some very interesting implications. I mean, a part of me is like, yeah, I can see why that could be good, but another part of me is like, I could see why that could be bad as well. You're saying no, they're not. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I could check really quick. I'm just curious to see if there's any truth to this, because I remember I feel like I came across this. Did they announce it on YouTube Gaming? I could probably just search YouTube dislikes just really quickly. Wow. Okay, you guys are not. Yeah, this is legitimate. I'm looking at this now. This is an article from, I think, TechCrunch. YouTube is removing the dislike count on all videos across its platform. YouTube today announced its decision to make the dislike count on videos private across its platform. The decision is likely to be controversial given the extent that it impacts the public's visibility into a video's reception, but YouTube believes the change will better protect its creators from harassment and reduce the threat of what it calls dislike attacks, essentially when a group teams up to drive up the number of dislikes a video receives. The company says that while the dislike count won't be visible to the public, it's not removing the dislike button itself. Users can click the thumbs down button on videos to signal their dislike to creators privately. Meanwhile, creators will be able to track their dislikes in YouTube Studio alongside other analytics about their video's performance. That is very interesting. I had no idea. So that's real. Yeah, that's a real thing that's happening. I mean, it has good and bad implications. It might encourage people to become even more toxic with the idea that, oh, I can get away with it now because, nobody's going to see the dislikes. So I can just do what I want. But I can also see the other side of the coin where it's like, yeah, I mean, I've experienced that where basically somebody with a bigger audience says, hey, go to this person's video, and well, they don't like say it, but it's implied, like go to this video and dislike it and whatnot. So yeah, I don't know. That's very interesting. We'll have to see what this leads to in the future. But I guess that's just the way it's going to be. So, speaking of which, hit that like button for me, guys. All right, let's see here. We have BDM is what I'm going to call him because he has a bunch of numbers before his name. He says, I loved it so far. Could have done without Horizon Forbidden West being delayed, but with the world the way it is, it's understandable. Still marvel at Demon Souls load times. Having played the original and every Souls game since, Dark Souls PS5 is astonishing. Quite a few places are taking expressions of interest for PS5 in Australia, so it seems they're getting a better handle on stock levels. I do have to agree, man. Demon Souls, I mean, if you were to ask me 1 year with the PS5, what is the best looking PS5 game? I mean, Ratchet and Clank is extremely impressive, but I feel like I have to give that award to Demon Souls. It looks unbelievably good, man. I mean, I know that some people look at a game like Demon Souls Remake and are like, well, it's just a remake. And that's true, but man, if you got to give at least Blue Point credit for one thing, even if you're not a fan of Demon Souls, I mean, the game looks astonishing. It does. I remember that was the first game I played on PS5, and I couldn't believe it, man. Even though there's like a fidelity mode and there's a performance mode, when you switch to the performance mode, there's just so little difference. And seeing that level of detail and that visual quality at a smooth 60 FPS, I mean, that to me, that was like the next gen moment for me. With the DualSense, I'm like, this is, wow. Like, I genuinely impressed. I feel like it's easy to be like impressed in the moment, but when I think back, I'm like, yeah, it's still very impressive. It still is, even a year later. So let's continue on here. We have Hugo B. He's saying 3 out of 5 for me. The reason is the controller is pretty sensitive to analog drift. They knew it was a problem with the PS4. They should have made a joystick more stronger. Is also, in my opinion, missing some features like communities and a few other things. For me, to rate it a 4 would be to sort the controller out and other stuff. So I appreciate that. So they're saying that they gave it a 3 out of 5. And they're letting me know why. And I think those are completely fair reasons. This is clearly somebody, Hugo B, who has been playing with, with the PS5 for some time. They're not feeling too good about the analog sticks on the controller. They would like to see Sony implement some more features. and that's why they're giving it a 3 out of 5. And I'd say that's still pretty good. You know, I'd say the first year of a 3 out of 5, giving it a 3 out of 5, I mean, is not bad. You're saying there's news about the Game Awards on Twitter? I mean, I guess I could check that in a moment. Let me see here. I always get I always have so many different tabs up. I get confused at what I'm clicking. Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna go. I'm just curious what the what's the news? What's the news on the Game Awards? I think everybody's there he is, Spider-Man coming to Avengers on November 30th. That's not it. Okay, so an interview with Jeff Keighley on the Game Awards. A lot of content for 2022 and 2023. Biggest lineup yet. 40, 50 games to be featured in some capacity. New game announcements are in the double digits. Orchestra on stage teases true next-gen stuff. All right, well, that's what that's the latest on the Game Awards. So we'll see. I'm not going to get hyped. Not yet. I'm not going to let Jeff Keighley hype me up. You know? I appreciate it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, hey, that sounds great. But I feel like I've watched the Game Awards enough times to know temper expectations. In fact, I'd say that if there's one thing I've learned for the entirety of this year is temper expectations. Optimus Backsweat says, I give it a Sessler 5 out of 5. Love my PS5. Awesome. Okay. Temper expect. Oh, you know what, guys? I'll drop this here for people who are watching live right now. I'll drop this here. Okay. This is going to be difficult because I know people are going to be like, you're an insider. You know, I'm not an insider. I don't know anything. I just want to say that I feel confident. Okay. I need to emphasize, I'm not saying I know anything because the truth is I don't know. And anything I'm about to say, it could be wrong, and I feel like this is a fair thing to say as well. Because even if I didn't have any, I'll just tell you this. A lot of people, and I've noticed this recently, because there were like multiple people on Twitter and multiple articles being republished. You're saying, trust me, we know you're not an insider. Good. I'm glad we can establish that. I'm just going to say there's been a lot of conversation about a remake that's going to be revealed, a PlayStation remake that's going to be revealed at the Game Awards. And I've seen a lot of speculation about what this game could be. All I'm going to say is it would really be best for everybody to just go in with minimal expectation, because I'm fairly certain it's not Metal Gear. If it's the game that I think it is, I think people will certainly be happy, but you're going to want to, I don't know, you're just going to want to not expect, the best way to put it is there's a lot of games that I've seen people say like, oh, remake that. Oh, that's the one that has to be remade. And there's just a lot of games that people go to immediately. And I feel like this is going to be one of those games where it's probably not going to be the first game you go to. So that should kind of give you a better idea. Somebody says it's Bloodborne. I don't think it's Bloodborne. I mean, I don't know if Sony's going to reveal anything Bloodborne related at the Game Awards. I think it would be great if they did. So the thing is, I don't know the name of the game. I just know that I'll put it to you this way. I feel like there are just some games we think about that it's like, oh, like that's going to cause like a tidal wave of hype. And then there are games where it's like, oh, cool. You know, like I think, and then there's like going to certainly be some people that are like, yes, like I really wanted this. I feel like what this game is, it's going to definitely fall in the category of like, there are going to be people who are happy, there are going to be people who are excited, but I think in general, it's not going to fit in that category of like, this is a big, huge, you know, remake that Sony's revealing. Dreams are coming true today. I don't think it's that. I'm fairly confident that it's not that. So I just thought that I would let you guys know. But I mean, hey, you know, I don't have any type of super insight or anything. I don't know, you know, I don't know what these games are. Jeff Keighley says that they're going to have 40 or 50 or double digit next gen game reveals. I don't know what those are. I hope Sony's there in a big way, but we'll have to see. Okay, getting back on track here. So we also have Note. Note says, give it a strong 3 out of 5. I was lucky to pre-order and grab mine day one, but for the first 6 months, it felt hard to justify my purchase outside of having no other console. I hadn't actually bought a bona fide PS5 game until 6 months in, and on top of that, the games I was actually looking forward to, Deathloop, Kena, Stray, Solar Ash, either got delayed, released in the past 2 months, or still aren't even out yet. I'm aware of a slow first year being normal, but not going to stop me from being a little annoyed by it. Not to mention the PS5 selections on PS Plus have been few and far between of a W in my opinion, and it took me a year later with other in real life friends with PS5s to even take a glance at Tango, Hell Let Loose, and Overcooked. However, playing Genshin Impact, Fortnite, and Destiny 2 have felt really great on here. I wouldn't want to play them anywhere else, and Kena and Deathloop are as great as I hoped they'd be when I finally got my hands on them. Can't wait for 2022 though. I'm expecting some really great titles. So I appreciate that Note. I appreciate people going a little bit more in depth and explaining why they're giving the ratings that they're giving. So we've seen 2 3 out of 5 ratings of people explaining why it hasn't hit that 4 or 5 mark yet. So let me see. We also have SIE saying 5 out of 5 for me. Miles Morales, Demon's Souls, Ratchet and Clank, plus the DualSense. We have Jono Sinclair saying, I personally loved it. Have had a lot of fun with Deathloop, Spider-Man, Ratchet and Clank, and Returnal. That got 32 upvotes, so a lot of people agree with that. We have T100. You might hear my stomach growling a little bit. I'm getting pretty hungry over here. I really enjoy the console. Biggest highlights for me are performance, load times, and the DualSense. Also, I think I had a very strong start with incredible games like Spider-Man, Demon's Souls, Returnal, Ratchet and Clank. I feel like they're ending the year a little weak with no blockbuster holiday game and PS Plus dropping the ball a bit. But overall, good or very good. 4 out of 5 points for me. Way better than the PS4 launch. So that was a really good one. I think a lot of people feel this way, and that's mostly how I feel as well. David, you're saying MBG, you stated many times, what was the point of buying an Xbox if I can play their games on PC? Does that apply the same to PlayStation 5 now that their games are on PC? Well, I made it clear, David M., that I was wrong in that sentiment. There were times where I kind of hopped on there's no point to get an Xbox bandwagon because it was just easy to do it at the time because nobody expected Sony to actually put some of their games on the PC. I don't think anybody saw that coming. And there was some truth to that to an extent. I think what's fair is that you have to understand, David, that when people said this about the Xbox, it's because the Xbox was selling really, really badly. If you go back and you listen to what I said quite a few times, look, the Xbox One is selling really poorly for one of 2 reasons. One, people feel the need to not buy the Xbox One because they're going to play their games on PC or elsewhere, and they just don't see a point in buying the Xbox One. Or 2, the Xbox One just doesn't come off as an appealing must-have console. And PC games going to PC has nothing to do with that. I said it was one of 2 things. Now, seeing that the Xbox Series X is off to a solid sales start, knowing that every game is releasing on PC as well, I think it's safe to say that the answer is people just didn't see the Xbox One as an appealing, relevant must-have console. To whereas with the Series X, it's definitely a much more appealing console than I think the Xbox One was at launch. So hopefully that clears it up. Let me see. We have Jay Silva saying way above what I imagined it, rivaling the Switch, which for me had the strongest first year previously. Okay, so some strong. That's some people. I think he probably gave it a 5 out of 5, right? Willie Caillou saying one of the best first years on a console, best transition in PlayStation history, excellent hardware and a wonderful controller, best ever on a PlayStation, great visuals and sound, excellent start in a new UI, smooth and rather easy to use, silent. I have all consoles and it's my favorite by far. I can't wait for a very bright future. So, all right, he really enjoyed it. I'm going to assume he gave it a 5 out of 5 as well. We also have Vincent saying next year and February especially will feel like when you've been holding in a poop for a while just to make it to the toilet to blast off into the stratosphere. So this year was like a normal poop. Next year will be like a stratospheric poop. So there we go. We have Vincent giving us the poop analogy that we didn't know we needed, but we got it anyway. And I mean, it makes sense. What he's saying, I think, is pretty on point. So I mean, he doesn't give a rating, but I'm going to assume it's like a 3 out of 5. We also have Mystic Make or Mac 21 saying it's been amazing. Just wish we had more upgrades for PS4 games. We have Boomer Plus Ultra saying best first year of a new console I've ever had, and the backwards compatibility and upgrades for older content definitely plays into that. But I wonder when we're going to see more PS5 exclusive content that pushes boundaries. It looks like it's going to be a while. Yeah, I think that's the big thing here. I'm noticing is a lot of people are saying that they feel like they haven't like really gotten that real next gen game. I think that the closest thing people look to is maybe Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. But I think in general, most people kind of agree that it could probably go beyond that. You know, I think it's safe to say it could go beyond that. Let me see. Oh, it went down a little too far. So we have Tato A saying, the best thing is the DualSense. Every time I play a PS4 game, I feel empty. Most games are cross-gen. 2021 is the new 2014. We need actual new generation games. You know what? It's interesting that he mentions this because I was just thinking about that. I was just thinking about how 2014 was pretty weak, wasn't it, in general? Like it didn't have that excitement that years after that had, even in 2015, but especially in 2016 and 17, like things really started to take off. And I think that cadence is going to be pretty much what we see again. It's going to be the same. Romal says, would be 5 out of 5 if God of War and Horizon came out this year. We have Parakuja Gaming saying, honestly, I would say 6 out of 5. That's the first 6 out of 5. Perfect. Much better than I would have expected it. PS4 launch was so disappointing because like all games didn't even come close to a locked 60 FPS. Well, now the PS5, I have a real next-gen experience. So really enjoying it, giving it a 6 out of 5. Joe Foley says, what I'd like to see from PlayStation, Dolby Vision for 4K movies, a PlayStation social media feed to share gameplay and pictures similar to what's new on PS4 Remote Play for Vita, announce a major PlayStation IP revival. Wolverine is nice, but not associated with PlayStation history. Go all in on physical media to cater to an audience the other companies aren't. Return to E3 or PlayStation Experience to give fans something to be hyped for. Updates to the PS Plus collection, custom shells, possibly in collector's edition. So appreciate the comment, buddy. I just don't know. I don't know what this means for the rating of the PS5. You know, I don't know. I guess I could assume you gave it a 2 or 3 out of 5, maybe. Probably 3 out of 5. No, we got another 6 out of 5 here from Mario. Amazing, beyond my expectations. Natural Fitness 23 says, I think it's been perfect. I've always had something to play all year. Spooky Uncle says, I played a lot of new games. The graphics and load times have been amazing on all of them. My console is running perfectly, much better than I thought it might. A lot of new games have been announced. It's been a perfect year for me so far. So many new experiences that I find it hard to find something to complain about for me personally. And then I want to look at some of the more upvoted comments. Jeff Stanley says, I've honestly been loving it so far. More still to come, of course, but this launch year has been solid in my opinion. Looking for... So we have Sunshine saying the machine itself is awesome. The DualSense is one of the biggest wonders in console gaming in years. The games that have been made for the PS5 has been really great, but I have to say that this is one of the worst opening years in console history, not only for the PS5, but for the Series X too. There have been so few actual games, 0 made for the Series X so far, and only 3 for the PS5, and I can't in good faith say anything else that has been okay. All these cross-gen games are really holding things back. There's no other way to look at it. The PS4 launched with more games only for that system, as in no cross-gen titles, than what has been released in a whole year for the PS5. It's not a good opening. So, yeah, there's a lot of I cannot go through all of these. There's over 400 comments, which is insane. Really got to thank you guys for that. But yeah, I mean, in general, it seems like most people are feeling positive, but there's certainly, it seems that the 4 out of 5, the 50 or 55% of people that voted for 4 out of 5, rating it a 4 out of 5, saying it's been great, not perfect, but great. Reading through all the messages and the comments, it seems like that's pretty much where everybody falls into. Most people who have a PS5, some people are giving it a 6 out of 5, but most people are saying, look, Sony did a really good job. There's a lot of great things here, but there's more that has to come, you know? Like we know there's more coming and it could have been stronger, but I think for me the first year of the PS5, it was, if I had to rate it, I'm going to separate it. I feel like the launch of the PS5 was absolutely 5 out of 5. But for the remainder of the year, for like all of 2021, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. But in general, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5. I feel like if Horizon dropped this year, it would have been incredibly easy to give it a 5 out of 5 rating. But to be fair, I'm going to have to give it a 4 out of 5. Jeez, I am starving over here. I don't know why. I did that thing again where I decided to do a stream and not eat before my stream. Gets me every time. All right. So what I'm going to do now, because a lot of people are asking me to do this, I'm going to go to Game Informer, their Twitter, and check this poll that they put out. A lot of people are asking me to go look at it, so I'll go check it out real quick. I gotta find it first. I don't know when it was put out. Okay, here it is. Game Informer on November 8th, they put the poll out, and it says, which platform is having the best 2021? Okay, so that makes more... I was under the impression that they were asking, like, which console had the better first year. If you're just talking about 2021, then that cuts out the launch lineup of the PS5, which is interesting. So that changes the dynamic completely. That changes the question completely. There's Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, PC. There's 39,000 votes, so a lot of votes. 7.1% said the Nintendo Switch, 27.9% said PlayStation, 48.9% said Xbox, and 16.1% said PC. So Xbox won by a fair amount here. 48.9% said Xbox is having the best 2021. It's also worth noting that they're not talking about consoles. They're talking about platforms. So I don't know. I mean, I guess for some people, it really is like it's the year of Halo, and Forza Horizon 5 just came out, and a lot, you have to imagine a lot of people didn't play Returnal. Returnal doesn't have the same type of appeal as a game like Halo, not anywhere close. That's just the truth. But yeah, I mean, if you look at what people are talking about this year when it comes to Xbox, which platform is having the best 2021? I mean, I can understand why people are voting Xbox. I don't know that I wholeheartedly agree with it, but Xbox, if you're not just talking about games, they had a big E3. You know, they cemented the deal with Bethesda. You know, they expanded their studios in a huge way. They are now hitting their stride with game reveals. They did have Psychonauts 2. They had Flight Simulator, other things that people were talking about throughout the year. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I don't really think this poll, just like my polls and anybody else's, they don't really mean much, you know? I don't think that somebody at Sony, you know, is going to see a Game Informer poll like this and think, sheesh, I think we have to change something. I want to say this. I think this is a great opportunity to bring this up because I'm looking at this poll and almost 50% of the votes. So that would mean about like almost 20,000 of these votes. You're saying it's the competition that MBG always dreamed of. No, you know what, dude? You're right. But I just don't. The problem is I don't know that this is necessarily it. The game releases are, but I don't know, man. I feel like if somebody at Sony were to see this poll, they would just be like, yeah, we don't care. You know what I mean? Like, and you could understand why they wouldn't. Also, I mean, we do have to take into account that if you're talking about somebody within Sony who knows what they have, what they're working on, maybe that's why they wouldn't care. But this is a good opportunity for me I have to say something about PlayStation. We talk about how would we rate the first year of the PS5. I also want to talk about how would we rate this year for PlayStation. Now, this is a conversation we'll probably have again at the very end of this year, like at the end of December going into January of 2022, because we don't know if Sony has anything else planned for the remainder of the year. So I can't do like a full, complete judgment yet. But you're saying the only poll that matters is sales. That's true, dude. That's why I'm saying, like Sony, you could show this poll to a Sony executive and they would laugh because they're busy counting their money. You know what I mean? So, but I do think there is something here that I have to say. When I think about 2021 for PlayStation, one of the biggest moments of the year, and I know you guys remember, is when Sony said in May, I think it was May, we're going to have a state of play where we're going to show you like a 15-minute gameplay segment and demo of Horizon. Now, I think that when they did that, they were still under the impression that they're going to hit that, you know, fall, holiday 2021, maybe September 2021. And I remember that was like one of the biggest moments of the year. And the reason being is because people were like, yes, like this is what we want to see, Sony. Like this is it, you know? And it was really nice. It was a great gameplay demo. But more recently, I think where Sony is really messing up is here. And you guys can let me know what you think about this. I think where Sony is really messing up this year is I noticed it was not yesterday, the day before, Sony put out another blog post for Horizon Forbidden West. A bunch of new information. Important, in my opinion, important and good information about this massive title that's coming out in February. And they just put a blog post. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, how strange. How strange that Sony is like, hey guys, come to our live stream of this new state of play. Let's call a spade, guys. When Sony announces a state of play, people are going to get excited. It doesn't matter what they've shown previously. Sony could literally come out and say, we're not going to show you anything exciting, and people would still get excited. That's just the way it is. It's because PlayStation is huge. And when PlayStation says we're doing a live stream, people are going to get excited. And I feel like somebody over there at Sony doesn't know this. They don't realize that you are wasting a golden opportunity when it comes to just building very easy excitement in a very easy way. And what I'm talking about is it's just so strange to me that Sony will ring the bell, say, come congregate here to watch this live stream for a state of play that has nothing to do with any of our first party games. But when we do talk about our first party game, that being new information on Horizon, just go check out this blog post. I'm not saying they should cancel the state of plays. They are what they are. Sony's going to continue to do them. It's for their partners, really. And that's fine. If they don't want to add a small little segment for Horizon or upcoming games at the end of their state of plays, at the very least, could they not maybe just, instead of doing that blog post, release a small 5-minute video or 3-minute video, really, of the developers who are writing up these blog posts, also just talking about it. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, it's that simple, man. It's that simple. It's so weird to me that they're choosing to navigate this in a way where it's like, yeah, let's just write about the new stuff in Horizon. Why? I mean, why? If you're not ready to show it, at least have the developers talk about it with some B-roll of Horizon footage we already saw. It's that easy. But that's not what they're doing for some reason. To me, it's very confusing. And I'm not saying this as a content creator. I'm actually saying this as a fan, where I'm like, I don't want to read this long blog post. And when I do read it, I'm like, okay, I'm going to read it because I'm interested in the game. It just occurs to me like this. Why are you not releasing a video of the developers talking about this on your PlayStation YouTube channel with 13 million subscribers? I just think that's whoever is doing the PR there at Sony. To me, I just feel like you're missing an absolute easy win here. Golden opportunity, especially during a time when your competition is turning up the heat. That's all it is, man. I'm not saying drop a new 5-minute gameplay trailer. No, if you're not ready to show new gameplay, don't. But clearly, Guerrilla Games is talking more about the features of the game. And I just think, I don't know, man. It's just so weird to me. It's so weird to me that the core PlayStation fan base, the things that we aren't excited about and don't really care too much about, Sony will do a dedicated live stream for that. But when it comes to the things we do really care about, and the core PlayStation fan base is absolutely overly excited about, oh, well, here's a blog post. You know what I mean? It's like, come on. Also, I got to say this, because now that I'm thinking about it, why is it that Sony will do what they did for Deathloop? They will market Deathloop to death. It's like a death loop in and of itself. They will market that game to the point where you're nauseated by it. But they won't do that for a game like Horizon when they should be. People will eat that up, man. People will eat up. Dude, this is the 15th trailer for Horizon Forbidden West. Yeah, I'm going to watch it. Yeah, I'm going to get excited about it. Bring on more, And that's so weird to me. I don't understand. But I'm not a marketer, so I don't know. Maybe there's something to it. Jerome, you're saying, what do you think about if casual gamers don't play Demon Souls and Returnal? Salter them is Spider-Man and Ratchet versus Halo. And Forza, it's kind of even. Well, yeah. I mean, if they're not playing Demon Souls and they're not playing Returnal, I don't know. It's the games that Sony released. I think they're just not. So, like, Returnal doesn't hold the same weight as a new mainline Halo game. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart doesn't hold the same weight and heft as a mainline Halo game. Even a game like Demon Souls doesn't. These games just don't. Some people might think so. Some people might. I mean, we have to understand. In general, it's just Halo is like the flagship for Microsoft, to whereas like God of War and Uncharted and Spider-Man are like the flagship for Sony now, and Horizon. So I feel like it would be more fair to compare a game like God of War Ragnarok to Halo Infinite, not in terms of the type of game they are, but just the IP itself and the weight that it holds for that specific platform. So, Patrick, you're saying, hi, MBG, you are my main source for PlayStation news, and I was wondering if you're ever thinking about including some Xbox news. It's nice as a gamer to hear what the competition is up to. It's a great question, man, and I appreciate you. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate you asking the question. I'm not so sure about that. It's a tough call for me because I often have to ask myself, what is the most important thing that my channel offers? And by that, I mean, like, what is it that my core subscriber base, like, what is it that people come to my channel for? Now, you're telling me that I'm your main source for PlayStation news, and I do make a lot of PlayStation news videos. And so I am a news-based channel, but I think that there's just as many people who show up, like it's kind of split, who are here for like my opinions and my thoughts. And I know that that's true because I do a podcast where that's pretty much all it is. And I noticed that lately, trying to talk about Xbox is like navigating a minefield. And the mines are basically people who don't want me to talk about Xbox because Xbox is now on top, as this Game Informer, this Game Informer poll clearly indicates to everybody, obviously. And people have just kind of gotten to a point where unless I'm willing to jump on the bandwagon of, let me tell you why Xbox is great now. And I don't feel that way. And the reason why I don't feel that way is simple. I'm just not interested in what they're doing. And so then people will say, well, then why are you talking about them? And that, you know what? Great question. That's a fantastic question. Why am I talking about them? And I come to the realization and the conclusion that I don't know. I probably just because everybody else is. And then I just realized that I'm not actually. So Forza Horizon 5, a good example is it was just announced by Phil Spencer that it's like the most successful Xbox launch, I think, in history, like big numbers. And I get it. Like, it's fair is what I'm saying. It's fair for people who like Xbox to say, dude, how come you're so quick to talk about the negative things regarding Xbox news, but you're not willing to keep the same energy for positive Xbox news? And you know what? That's where I'm humbled. You're right. That's totally correct. And I come to this conclusion that it's not fair. It's not fair, and that's why people are making fun of me, because it's so obvious, like, dude, you just want to talk badly about Xbox. And now that I've come to this realization that I have to be honest with myself, and I'm going to ask myself one simple question. And I'll give you a great example. We just got a whole new interview with Todd Howard and Bethesda talking about Starfield, and I think Indiana Jones, and a bunch of stuff about the future of Bethesda games, these bigger games. And I have to ask myself one simple question, because the truth is, a lot of people are going to be talking about that. And I feel, as a content creator, I feel the desire to insert myself into that conversation, just like I did with Halo Infinite at one point. But I have to be truly honest with myself and ask myself, do I actually care about this game? Do I actually plan to play this game? Do I really care? Or am I just trying to insert myself into this conversation in this moment because it's what people are talking about and I just want to chime in? When in reality, it's like, but do you care? And that's where I think it's gotten to a point where I don't cover much Xbox news because I don't really care about Xbox. And I realized that the only extent in 2021 going into 2022 that I care about Xbox is to the extent of how is the competition going between the two? And is Xbox, are they applying pressure to PlayStation? And if so, how is that going to affect PlayStation? Because that's where I game now. I don't see anything over on Xbox, truly speaking, like wholeheartedly, honestly. As of right now, I haven't seen anything that makes me feel like, okay, now I want to talk about this. A good example as well is like when we hear more information about State of Decay 3, which is a game I'm very much looking forward to, and Hellblade 2. Yeah, that things are probably going to change where I'm like, I want to cover these games. I want to talk about these games because I want to play these games. People thought I was kidding. They didn't think I was kidding. They thought I was lying. When Microsoft acquired Bethesda, they thought, dude, you're just saying you don't like Bethesda because now they're owned by Xbox. So of course you don't like them. And I'm like, no, I never liked Bethesda. Like I never played Bethesda games really ever. The only Bethesda game I can recall touching in the past 6 to 7 years, and I'm not kidding, are the Evil Within games, 1 and 2. That's it. That's it. And that's not me throwing shade at Bethesda. That's not me throwing shade at Microsoft. I've talked about it ad nauseum about how big of an acquisition that really is, but I realized that there's just no reason for me to truly talk about it in the way that I'm talking about it, if I know deep down, like, I'm just not interested in these games. You know what I'm saying? Saying if you could get a remake of Chrono Cross, huh? If a Chrono Cross remake was announced, is that like a big, would that be big? I don't know. I don't know what Chrono Cross is. I saw a bunch of people bring that up, and I'm like, is Chrono Cross like a big game that people like? Is that like a Metal Gear level? Like, oh my god, it's happening, or like a Silent Hill level remake? Exactly. You don't know. So clueless. Well, it's not a dude. I mean, look, man, my knowledge, it has its limits, dude. My knowledge is mostly based off of my experience. These days, I'm trying to, I'm open to trying to understand the things that I may have missed, and like, okay, now I know. MBG is young. He doesn't understand. Yeah, I'm interested that, like, because I've seen a lot of people bring that up, and I'm like, I'm just not familiar at all with Chrono Cross. Sewell, you're saying, how can you represent PlayStation on YouTube but only cover the bare bones of what PlayStation has to offer? Tired of hearing about first-party drivel. Well, man, I mean, that's the thing. I'm just trying to be true to myself, man. You know, I don't. My goal when doing YouTube was I never wanted it to feel like a job. You know what I mean? And by that, I mean like a job in the sense that, well, now you got to do like this thing, you know? Hold on, something's dropping here. I don't know. Never mind. I don't know what that, I don't know why it's showing up. What I mean by that is I created my YouTube channel out of my passion for gaming. And I didn't want that to be altered to the extent where it's like, well, now I'm going to play a game that I never actually had any interest in and give my thoughts on it, knowing that maybe I was never going to enjoy it because it just was a game that never appealed to me. But I'm going to do it, you know, even when I moved over to PS4 and I started playing these exclusives, notice how I didn't play every PS4 exclusive. I didn't play every PlayStation game. I went to the ones that really spoke to me, that I gravitated towards. And I understand what you're saying. You would like if I could be like the all around, like, just PlayStation encyclopedia, I guess, you know, and just be able to cover it all. But, you know, I have to also keep my own, and maybe it's a little bit selfish, you know, I understand it comes off as a little bit selfish, but that's just the way it is for me, you know, and I don't try to close the door on things, but, you know, it's like Chrono Trigger or Chrono Cross or these games that people are talking about, this is where it's like, if we were watching like the Game Awards or next year and Sony announces like, oh, we got a Chrono Cross remake or something, I wouldn't care in that moment because I don't know what that game is. And if somebody were to make a judgment on me because that were like, of course you don't know what it is. You're not a real gamer. It's like, well, you know, I guess if that's how you see it, but that's just the way it is. You know what I mean? Like I only see through, so I can only see so much. I can only know so much, but I'm always willing to try to be open, but I don't want things to be forced. That's the key. That's the key that I want everybody to understand is if I'm not talking about it yet, if I'm not jumping on it, it's probably because it's going to be forced if I do. People think that the whole blue box situation that happened earlier this year, a lot of people were saying like, dude, you're just doing this for clout. And I'm just like, that drives me nuts because that's not it. There's a lot of other things I could be doing for clout and attention. I'm doing it because I love Metal Gear Solid, because I love, you know, the idea of, oh my God, is it coming back? Is a remake actually happening? Is a new one being made? And if so, how's that going to look? It's because of my passion for that series, for the creator behind the series. And that's it, you know, and it got taken very far, obviously, but it was never a situation where it's like, whoa, check this out. Everybody's talking about this. If that's how it was, I would be out here I would be streaming Forza Horizon 5 and giving my thoughts on it, because you think that doesn't sound interesting to a lot of people. Like, oh, look, MBG, the PlayStation guy, he's going to give his thoughts on Forza Horizon 5. But I would only do that because just for that superficial reason of, well, hey, I think people will find this interesting and this will get views. I don't, you know, I'm just not operating under that. You know, I'm just not operating under that. So, but yeah, you know, it's tough. It's tough because as a content creator, obviously I always keep in my mind, like, I want as much viewership as I can get. That's the point of me doing this. I want people to be engaged. I want to give people a reason to be engaged. But at the same time, I have to ask myself, you know, why did you start this in the first place? What are you truly trying to achieve here? And if I'm truly just trying to achieve the most amount of viewership, dude, I would be playing Fortnite right now or something, or it's just something else, you know? And it's like, because that's not how this started. That was never the intent. That's still not the intent. Sometimes I stray a little bit, but, you know, hopefully this is all making sense to you guys. Is the abandoned app ever getting updated? I don't know, dude. I have no idea. I still have that thing on my PS5. What a weird situation, man. What a weird situation. But yeah, you know, I just, to answer your question, man, Patrick, because I thought it was a great question, because that's the reason why I'm spending so much time on your super chat and your questions, because that's just one that I've been thinking about myself from, like, I know how people view me. They're like, oh, he's just the flip-flopper and whatnot. And of course, if I start doing Xbox news in my videos, then they'll be like, oh, now people get weird about it. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, he's switching back. It's like, there's no switching anymore, man. It's just, this is how it is, you know? And I realize now that I look at PlayStation, I look at where PlayStation is headed with the PS5, I look at Xbox, I look at where Xbox is headed with their studios and their content. And the truth is it's just, there's so little on Xbox that truly, genuinely appeals to me. That's just how it is, you know? I'd rather a YouTuber who is passionate about Starfield and truly passionate about Halo. You know what? I'm going to leave it to them. And I just don't want to be this person going forward that's like, well, hey, did you hear about this bad news regarding Halo? Let's talk about that, because that's just, I don't know. At one point in time, I probably thought that was good and entertaining, and people showed up for that, and it was fun to laugh. But I'm like, you know, I've been humbled. So you live and you learn. Let me see. We have Jerome. You're saying, let's be honest. If it's good and the reviews are good, you're going to play it. Starfield looks promising. Well, that's the thing is I'm not shutting the door entirely. I'm just saying right now, like I feel like I can do this though real quick. Let me see. Starfield. I feel like I can at the very least do this. I saw like a headline or something. The Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls 6 release gap. I feel like I saw a headline recently, maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, where Todd Howard basically said that Starfield was going to be he's like it's Starfield is going to be like Elder Scrolls in space. I don't know, like I swear I saw that headline written. And I feel like that's like what we're expected, like that's the expectation for Starfield, is it not? Where it's like the type of freedom and exploration that you get for, dude, I'm just going to be brutally honest right now. This is not an attempt to throw shade. It's just the raw truth. I tried playing the Elder Scrolls Skyrim one time and I put hours into it. And the reason why I tried playing it, this was years ago before I even started YouTube, was because everybody was saying, this is the game, man. Go play this game. And I just remember like playing it and I'm like, I'm very like, am I missing something? Because I don't like this literally at all. Like I can't stand this game. And it was that day I learned that like these games just aren't for me. Like games like that, whatever Elder Scrolls represents, that's not a game for me. Dark Souls is the game for me, not that. And I learned that literally through experience. Because I remember if I remember correctly, the real thing that sparked me to want to try to play Skyrim was I had finished Dark Souls and I was just so impressed. And people were like, dude, you got to play Skyrim. And I'm like, oh, another experience like that. Or, okay. And I go in and I'm like, I'm just literally like, what is this, man? Like, I don't get it. And I remember like looking into it. People were like, it's about the exploration, man. It's about the freedom. I'm like, I can't. I just can't, you know, I can't do it. And that's why when people talk about Starfield, I understand like why it's so hyped, because if you like, there's a lot of people who love the Elder Scrolls, man, and Skyrim. Like to a lot of people, it's one of the greatest games ever made. And the idea that you're going to get a new IP where it's like Skyrim in space, I understand that hype behind it. But I just can't bring myself to be like, yeah, it would be totally fake. It would be totally fake. You know what I mean? Because it just kind of comes off as like, bro, so you're excited for Starfield. What'd you think of Skyrim? I'm like, you really want to know what I thought of Skyrim? So I can't be excited for it, you know? That's all. But I do also want to say my mind is opened as well, is open to the idea of I want to see it as much as anybody else. I mean, is it going to be as exciting and big as people say it is? I mean, it sounds promising for sure. And I think once we get our first look at the gameplay, I'll know. Like I'm very much like 80% like, yeah, Starfield's not going to be a game for me. But you're saying stop talking about Xbox stuff. I'm reading the super chats, man. I'm answering the super chats. That's why. Jerome, again, you're saying when games that you like come out like State of Decay and Hellblade, will your channel feel more half and half? Yeah, I mean, again, like those games will have a place on my channel for sure. You know, for sure. I remember when you used to upload Skate gameplay. LOL. Yeah, dude, Skate would. I remember for a while there, that's all I was really using my Xbox for. It was like the Skate 3 machine. What a great game. Dude, I'm so hyped for the next generation of Skate, though. I hope they nail it. Jack Rabbit, you're saying, I'm going to be real, man. I dig you and your channel, but I'm getting tired of Xbox idiots bullying you into talking about their console all the time. Yeah, it's tough, man. Dude, the truth is, Jack Rabbit, the truth is right now, PlayStation really isn't doing anything, man. I mean, I try my best to like cover all of the different news, but there are just some weeks, and it was like last week and this week where just, dude, Sony, they're hunkered down, man, and they're just doing their work behind the scenes. There's no rumors, there's no insiders, there's no leaks, there's just a blog post for Horizon. And it's tough because it's like, I want to keep producing content and I want to keep the conversation going and I want to keep talking. And so that's, I think, why it becomes so easy, because there is the option where I can just go quiet myself. I can just be silent and not talk about anything and just wait until Sony emerges again when they, have some news to talk about. But, I don't want to do that. And I like trying to keep the content flowing, but I also don't want to force anything. And so it can be a tough balance there. But I hear what you're saying, man. I mean, look, there are some really toxic things going on right now when it comes to Xbox, and I'm not talking about Xbox fans. You know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who are like, they're just, it was always going to happen. You know what I mean? Like their Xbox fans have been down in the mud for a long time. And there's a group of them that now that Xbox has got their wind back and they're out here, they're making some waves. There were always going to be those people who were like, payback time, it's payback time, and that's what they're doing. And that's why I'm just like, yeah, I got, to an extent, I wasn't wrong about everything I said. There was a lot of stuff I was right about. There's a lot of stuff that I was real, was genuine, right? But there was some stuff where I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. I had this one coming, but like I said, you live and you learn, and it's all about everybody gets humbled in life at times. And I feel like it's important when you do to acknowledge it for what it is and really think to yourself, what are you supposed to learn from this? Because that's the point. You're supposed to learn something from it. But thank you for the super chat, man. Jerome, again, you're saying, I noticed you don't play a lot of RPGs or cover them. Do you plan on diving more into RPGs like Forspoken and Final Fantasy Remake and more reviews? Yeah, so, I remember like Final Fantasy VII was a big one where like it seemed like that was a game I absolutely should have covered like in depth on my channel. But again, it would have came off as forced because I've never been a Final Fantasy fan in that way. And I'm not saying that I could never get into it. It's just, again, it has to come naturally. I don't want to ever force myself to just play a game because it's like, well, this will be good for this reason. But a game like Forspoken, I do like what I'm seeing of it, and it's a new IP, and I'm like, you know what? I'm on board with that, man. Like, I'm willing to dive in day one when that game comes out, as long as I'm not, neck deep in something else that I'm playing at the time, for sure. But and it's not that I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Final Fantasy VII Remake, like I'm against it. I'm just saying it just doesn't speak to me in the way that I think it does a lot of people. Because I can tell it's a great game, MBG, you see YouTubers they've uploaded the first gameplay walkthrough of Elden Ring. Oh yeah, dude. Man, Elden Ring, I can't wait, dude. Like that's a game that I see that is as genuine, and I feel the same way about Horizon and especially God of War, but Elden Ring is a good example of like, that's something that's not a PlayStation exclusive. That is just pure, like, I want to cover that game and play that game and love that game because that game looks amazing. The Dark Souls games are some of my favorites. I remember when I played Bloodborne for the first time, I wanted to literally slap myself because I'm like, I actually almost didn't play this game because I wasn't playing on PlayStation. And I'm like, the Dark Souls games are some of my favorite games ever made, and I almost missed Bloodborne, and that was crazy to me. Because I knew Bloodborne was a lot like Dark Souls, but I was just like, I don't know, man. I'm stubborn and I'm over here and I'm just playing on Xbox. But I did it, and I don't regret it at all. As you know, Bloodborne's incredible. And so I see Elden Ring and I'm like, it's what I want. Elden Ring is exactly what I wanted. I feel like that's rare in life. I feel like it's rare when like you want something and you want it to be exactly this way. Like, this is exactly what I want. And 9 times out of 10, you don't get that. You get close to it, but you don't get that. I feel like I look at Elden Ring, I'm like, I feel like if I could have made a request for From Software's next game, Elden Ring is literally like everything and more that I would have requested from their next game. So that's how I feel about Elden Ring. I can't wait to, listen to some impressions and probably do some more reactions to it going forward. But yeah, I can't wait. That's why I'm hoping that games like Horizon and God of War end up being that way as well. Did I get the beta? No, unfortunately, I didn't. I didn't even sign up for it. And I'm glad I didn't. I say that only because it would have been really soul crushing if I signed up for it and they're like, you weren't chosen. I'd be like, all sad. But if I never signed up for it, so there was never the chance of rejection, maybe that says something about my personality, but I don't know. To be honest, I just forgot about it. Like I told myself I was going to sign up for it and I just completely forgot. So, you see Jerome again. Thank you so much for all the super chats, man. You're saying Chrono Cross is an RPG. You're not big into that kind of genre. How I noticed you didn't play KOTOR. Yeah, that's another example of like, I never did play KOTOR. I've heard incredible things about it, and obviously I'm gonna have to try the remake whenever that drops. It's gonna be a while, but I've always liked Star Wars, but I think KOTOR at that time, like I just, I didn't, wasn't that like an Xbox? I'm pretty sure it was an Xbox exclusive. I didn't have an Xbox, so. Jerome, again, you're saying, MBG, I love you, my guy, but if you need to cover Microsoft when Sony is dead and knows that's cool, I don't click on your videos to hear about control features, LOL. Just saying. I know, man. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Like my idea is like, I don't know. It's tough for me, man, because like I could be like, I'm gonna be the objective channel now. I'm just a news channel. You just get the news. And I could do that. And if I were to do that, I could cover anything. I could cover all Xbox. I could cover Nintendo. I could cover anything. I cover mobile. If it's just objective news based, I could do anything. But that's not just what my channel is. My channel is very much opinion based as well. And so because of that, it creates this nuance where it's like you can't just be the guy who covers the news, because you're the guy who covers the news and gives his opinion on everything. And you have your biases, and people know your biases, and they will use those biases against you. At this point, I think I'm just talking too much. We've deviated completely from the rating the first year of the PS5. Ivan Owl, you're saying, hey MBG, I rate PS5's first year 10 out of 10. Maybe a Metal Gear Solid remake will appear at the Game Awards. I'm not holding out hope for that, honestly. I at this point, I do believe the Metal Gear Solid remake is real, but at this point, I 100% believe that it's Metal Gear Solid 3. And it's being made by that Virtuous Studios, I think, the Chinese studio. I absolutely believe that that's real. I really do. MBG, you can make videos without opinions and just stream however you want. People will join or not. It is what it is. Yeah, I know. But that's the thing is like, as I said, I want to keep viewership up on my channel. I just don't want to do it in such an artificial way. That's all. I don't want to be like, hey guys, the news of the day, Forza Horizon 5, kicking ass and taking names. That's not me. That's not the new. That's not what MBG does, and it's because it's like you know what I mean? I don't want to be like that news anchor that's like, all right, I'm done here. Like I don't want it to be that. I really don't. But I hear what you guys are saying. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I could find a way to incorporate more news in general. Jerome, again, you're saying, will you cover West before Elden Ring comes out. Yeah, so yeah, that's what sucks, man. Is like Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West, literally within 1 week of one another. I'm gonna want to extensively cover both games. You're saying, but you'll report mundane PS News daily. And dude, that's the thing, man. Is like that's the reality too. Is like, well, I know that there are people who appreciate it. And that's why I keep doing it, because there are people who do watch those videos and they want to know. In your mind, that may seem mundane, but there are people who want to know, like PlayStation fans who do want to know. It may not be a lot of people, but they're there. I remember like last year when it came to PlayStation news, it was anything but mundane. And you saw like everybody was showing up because they're like, there's like big PlayStation news every week because we're building up to a console launch. Now, it's been a slow year. The first year, things slowed down a lot. And, when it comes to PlayStation news on a week-to-week basis, yeah, there are many more weeks where it's much more mundane, and I see that and I acknowledge that. And I guess it feels more appropriate to cover that, you know what I mean, than it is to be like, hey guys, so about that thing Todd Howard said about Starfield, because I don't know. I guess it's just because I know like I'm not going to be covering Starfield, and it just feels a bit slimy. Tomorrow's headlines: MBG finally admits Forza Horizon 5 is kicking ass and taking names. I mean, dude, objectively speaking, it's doing great. Let me see. Nick Eston, you're saying, holy crap, let the man answer questions. I like his PS content, but his insight into Xbox is still good. So many people whining about whiners. Yeah, I don't want to overthink it either. Like I'm not going to not talk about Xbox because when he says stop talking about Xbox, if there's something I want to say, I'm going to save it. Cover Halo, it will get you 100K views, LOL. Yeah. Space D, you're saying people need to prepare themselves about losing you. What? Whoa, losing me? That sounds kind of... Man, that sounds kind of depressing. No, I see what you're saying, man. Space D, you're just trolling. No, I guess to just kind of like circle everything back around. Have I read that article with Jeff Keighley's interview? I saw the headline. Yeah, a lot of games. It sounds like the Game Awards are going to be big this year, man. I do want to say this because I said earlier how I'm not going to get excited about the Game Awards. I still am sticking to that, but I will say this. Because of everything that happened within game development and just every industry in the past year, there's no denying that the past 12 to 18 months were not normal. And by that, I mean more games than ever before had to get pushed back. Okay. And because of that, more game reveals than ever before are also pushed back. So the idea that Jeff Keighley was able to maybe scoop up like more game reveals than he otherwise normally would be able to for his show, knowing that his show gets more viewership, it grows every year. I'm not getting hyped. I'm just simply saying that I think there's potential for this year's Game Awards to be good. That's all. To be maybe, better than expected, maybe. Just a little bit. Better than usual. Not expected. Better than usual. So that's how I'm taking it. Obviously, you guys know me. I'm like the hype guy when it comes to PlayStation a lot of times. I want to be the guy that's like, yeah, like, let's go. Bring it, Sony. But I can't do that. Not anymore this year. Maybe next year I can, but that's over for now because we know, like, guys, we know. Like, I did it again. I did it again with the latest State of Play. And what happened? I said maybe there'll be one announcement, and I don't think anybody's going to hold that against me. Nobody will. But it's for me as well. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully you guys get what I'm saying. Before I go... see here. I'm checking here. See, this is where it's like, this is what's so strange to me is all this stuff's going on, and I see PlayStation. They just tweeted out Stage 2 of Seize the Throne starts now. Access the inner chambers with 100 million total points, and these 5 PSN avatars are yours. And like, that's cool, but you know, like it doesn't mean much to me, you know. It's like that's a nice little cool thing you're doing, but yeah, so I'm interested to see, and this is the last thing I'll say, I guess. I'm interested to see if PlayStation does anything for the year. Like because I saw some people were already putting out like review videos and stuff for the PS5 being 1 year. And like, yeah, you know, even I'm doing it now with this, but technically the PS5 will officially be have been out for 1 year on the 12th. So I want to see if Sony does anything at all, like just, and by that, I'm not talking about announcements. I mean, like, even if it's just like acknowledging that it's been out for a year, you know, talking about some of the highlights of the past year, just something. I'm just interested to see if Sony does anything for that at all. I think they should. I think it would just be good. You know, they should. What I'm trying to say is they should celebrate the fact that, hey, the PS5 has been out for a year. But one thing I noticed is that, oh my God, if you go to any social media from PlayStation involving the PS5, I mean, it's just everybody crying about not being able to get a PS5. And it's like, all right, I mean, I get it. It's tough, but Jesus, can we just give it a rest? You know what I mean? Like, you complaining at Sony isn't going to make them produce any more units. They are trying. They want you to buy a PS5. You know, it's not like they're saying you can't have a PS5. They want you to have a PS5. But all right, this stream's starting to go off the rails, hit about the 2-hour mark. So I think that's pretty much going to do it for this stream. If you guys could hit the like button for me, I'll probably have just a regularly scheduled content coming tomorrow, and probably until Sunday when we get to the podcast. And I'll see what we'll talk about there in the podcast. See what's going on for the remainder of the week. But yeah, I appreciate you guys taking time to hang out with me. I feel like this stream was a little bit unorganized. I feel like the first half of it was definitely focused on the title of it, which is how would you rate the first year of the PS5. But I think the second half was really just more about, you know, answering some super chats and me kind of rambling on about a bunch of different things that, you know, aren't necessarily relevant to the topic at hand. But nonetheless, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, taking time to watch my stream. Hit the like button on your way out. And yeah, that's going to do it. I will catch you all tomorrow, hopefully with a video. So thanks again. I'll see you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.